To order, board members present, Jack, Steve, Nick, myself, and Nicole. There are no board members absent. Visitors, make sure that you've signed in. And can I please have the scout help us with the pledge? Thank you so much for coming out on this windy, crazy evening.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Adam, do you have any plugs for us? Like, is there a pancake breakfast coming up, or a thing? Right? There's some stuff happening.
There's a pancake breakfast coming up for the troop on Super Bowl Sunday.
You do that annually, right?
From 7 to 1. So, yes, please come on out.
Yeah.
Usually have 500 to 600 people come through that breakfast. It's a pretty strong community support on that one. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I please have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, just a couple of items for tonight's President's Report. Recently we had the second annual GLOW Literacy Night. 168 students attended with their families. Like, what an amazing event to bring the community in, and just like love reading, right? Like, how cool is that? And thanks for all of our staff that come out and help organize that. Again, a really great opportunity. We have not had an official regular school board meeting since we last voted to add ballot questions about the referendum to the ballot in April. So I just wanted to spend just a few minutes kind of talking through that. Again, because we haven't had a regular board meeting, just to kind of talk about the idea of, it was interesting that there was an article written by one of our local news agencies that was inaccurate. And I think we've done as much as we can really to be as transparent about the referendum as possible, including the dollars that we're looking to obtain from the community and the support, and that, again, so just really trying to be transparent with this and how this referendum impacts all of our stakeholders, right, and the taxpayers. So if, for those of you that are here, a mailer is going to be going out that explains a lot more of this information, and that's not to any like tax dollar costs or anything like that. And I know, Nick, like, this is a concern that you've expressed throughout this entire process about the possibility of an increase, and our commitment to making sure that, we're trying to keep the mill rate the same, the tax rate the same, and even the potential for a slight decrease in that mill rate over the 3 years. So again, just trying to be like overly communicative about the process and overly transparent about everything. I think more and more people, and Nicole, you're probably finding this as well, are like educated about school funding and the challenges that we all face as school boards and as administrators, and the fiscal challenges that we have, and what really happened, 40 years ago, that established this pattern of lack of funding from the state. So I think what's interesting when we talk about the impact and the ask is, we're not asking for more money. We're asking for the continuation of the support that we've been able to have, right? It's not like we're trying to do anything big, flashy, and we're trying to provide the same great services to our students and retain the great staff that we have to offer the programs that we are able to. So I think those are all really important things. As we face, we'll hear from Nicole here about our budget in a minute, but as we face increasing costs of benefits and transportation and food service and staffing and utilities and all of those things that we all experience as homeowners and real life citizens, like, schools have those same costs. So I think, just again, trying to communicate and be transparent about that, that we're trying to maintain, we're not trying to do anything above and beyond that continuation of support. And then also I think, we're committed also as a board and a school to look at every possible avenue of how do we maintain great programs, but also be fiscally responsible. So that includes opening up conversations about shared services and those kinds of conversations with neighboring districts and exploring transportation costs and food service costs and really anything that we can do to maintain our great programs, but also be fiscally responsible to the taxpayers. So just wanted to kind of talk through that a little bit. But Steve, any election updates?
Yeah,
Any clerk's report, sorry.
Yes, just an update on the election. As everyone knows, the election for the spring this year is Tuesday, April 1st. And I've heard jokes already about April Fool's Day, but this is not an April Fool's Day announcement. Anyway, the term of the office is for 3 years, beginning on Monday, April 28th, 2025, and ending April 23rd, 2020. April 28th, 2025, and ending April 23rd, 2028. And the two names on the ballot in this order are Ted Gergen and Steve Brown.
We signed up for 3 years.
Yeah, we did, yeah. And just so everyone knows, in order to vote, you need an acceptable photo ID which is required to vote at this election. If you do not have a photo ID, you may obtain a free ID for voting from the Division of Motor Vehicles. So that's all I have on that. And I think as everyone has heard over the last 24 hours, that the current administration in Washington issued a memorandum yesterday ordering a pause on federal grants and loans effective today at 5 p.m. Well, that's been put on hold with a freeze until Monday, this coming Monday, by a U.S. District Court judge in Washington, D.C. The information I got from DPI through our CISA 2 administrator, and I'll mention something else that he wrote. According to DPI is not pausing any work, and we, or DPI, are not asking you to pause our work in education, and funding for federal formula programs was appropriated by Congress and is currently the law. This does not impact Title I, IDEA, or other formula grants. And also in a memo a bit later this afternoon, a memo from Dan Hanrahan, who's agency administrator for CISA 2, he said, related to the email he sent, I read a bit of that a moment ago, about the federal spending freeze, he wanted to address Head Start. Initially, there was fear that the freeze in funding would impact Head Start. It was later declared that Head Start would not be impacted. So anyway, this will be further discussed and on all the news channels, regardless of what news channel you watch or listen to, and so that's what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, potentially could be a big impact to schools.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So something we're all paying attention to. Nicole, any WASB updates?
Sure. So the Education Convention was last week. I attended the delegate assembly, and so unlike last year, everybody pretty much voted the same way, which was great. But they should be publishing what they'll be focusing on this year here pretty soon.
Is this what you're showing?
What?
You want me to show this now or not?
Not yet. Well, so linked here is the WASB government relations presentation. It just came out today. I briefly went through it, haven't gone through it in detail, but I suggest everyone look at it. It's got some really great information. So particularly one slide from there that I had Vicki pull up, and this goes along with what Ted was showing. They pretty much nailed down number of school districts and the allowable revenue. So if you look at number 16, number of school districts, that's where Salem's at. So 3% of all districts Salem is one of those that's receiving under $11,500 per pupil. So when we talk about those funding disparities, this is why we have to go out for an operational referendum, because the costs have increased so much, especially in the last 10 years. We're just trying to make all those ends meet, particularly with fixed costs.
And the interesting thing, like, that was just an arbitrary day. They decided, like, this is the year that we're establishing whatever your spending was in whatever, 1990.
1993.
Yeah.
I think the saddest thing for people to know is that it's almost like this community was penalized because they were so fiscally responsible and
Right.
conservative in their spending, whereas other districts were overspending and they were in deficits, but they're like, oh, we're spending 18,000 on a student, we're gonna, and then the state sees, oh, you need that much money for your kids, we're gonna freeze you there.
Right.
But because Salem was doing so good, we've been frozen at that low level. And so as more and more families here, they're just like, how is that fair that our fiscally conservative, not like what we're doing to stay right, is now we no longer get with the districts who are in debt?
Right.
It's wild.
Yeah,
And compounding.
If I can just add one thing, over the years, and I've lived in the community 23 years, and the 9 years I've been on the board this time and a year and a half before that, there's always someone talking about consolidation of school districts. In other words, the 4K through 8s consolidating with the high school, the grades 9 through 12. Well, we have an unusual situation here with the elementary school districts that feed into either Westosha Central or Wilmot. And yeah, I mean, it might be something way into the future, but you're right. We are being penalized because of that, but yet we are fiscally conservative. So anyway.
Sorry.
Well, the fact too that some of our neighboring schools are in that 12% there.
Right.
But also, and if I have my math correct, the referendum is essentially asking for, I think, just under $2,000 per student, which actually still keeps us at the 15% of schools. So it's not an aggressive ask. It's pretty bare minimum for what our needs are. So anyway, that deck is, like I said, I haven't gone through, briefly went through it, but some amazing stuff that I saw at least so far. And then if anyone didn't know, we had some of our admin do a panel at EdCon, and I attended that as well, and it essentially was regarding building bridges in the community. I think there's a lot of work that even I was surprised that the administration team does above and beyond that. A lot of people don't see all the work that goes into it, but all the partnerships you guys have created with local businesses and families is really, I'm really thankful for that. And also after, I went to a session after their panel, and there were so many people that came up to me saying how thankful they were that they went to your panel, that it was very beneficial, and really a lot of good learning and sharing information. And then building off of Steve's point and building bridges, Ted mentioned earlier about sharing resources. That's kind of another thing that I know Vicky's done a really great job establishing relationships and building bridges with other districts in the area. But the sharing of resources, if we have something here that works, why not extend that to other districts that potentially need it? Not as a consolidation, but then the taxpayers are saving more, and we're really moving things over that potentially could work really great for someone else. So those are all discussions that a lot of us are having, and we'll see where it goes. Legislative update, Governor Evers will address the biennial budget address on February 18th. And then I've mentioned previously that I'll be letters, emails, and phone calls on behalf of our board to the JFC in regards to advocating for more fair and equal funding across the state. before those even go out, I'll make sure, everyone can view it. And then on that same note, I've had no confirmation yet, but have talked with our villages who potentially also may be interested in sending letters on behalf of their boards, because at the end of the day, this whole budget issue is affecting everybody. It's affecting everyone in this community, and we all need to advocate to offset those costs, because it's not right that as taxpayers in general, from the state budget, we're paying everyone differently. Like, we should pay everyone as close to the same as possible, the districts and per pupil. So I'll be doing that in February, so more to come on that. And then 2 events coming up is the February 27th School Law Conference, and then Wednesday, March 12th. You 2 are going, right? Yeah. We'll be going to the WASB Day at the Capitol, where they will actually plan sessions to meet with said legislators to advocate on all this. So, while we have to go out for the referendum, we are working on that, but then we're also trying to do what we can to solve the bigger problem. That's it.
That's a lot. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at the treasurer's report.
Hey, Ryan, did you get my quick message real quick? I'm locked out of the checks payable portion of it again, which I'm assuming a lot of us might be.
I'm locked out.
You're locked out, yeah, so,
I had to request access today.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, well, we're figuring
Sure,
that out.
okay.
Not both ways.
Yeah, even on my phone.
All right, I'd like to present the treasurer's report dated December 2024. I'll read the ending balance of each of our accounts. Our CSB operating account with a balance of $200,672.35. Our CSB flex account with a balance of $27,892. Petty cash with a balance of $300, LGIP with a balance of $1,423,692.31, WISC with a balance of $3,892,305.12, for a grand cash and investment asset total of $5,544,861.78. Do you miss this?
No, not one bit. No.
And a Fund 10 and 27 asset total. I see you relaxing over there.
Yep.
Like, and a Fund 10 and 27 asset total of $1,370,184.39. Payment of accounts payable bills. I'd like to present the payment of accounts payable bills dated December 1st through December 31st, 2024. This includes paper checks numbered 73020 through 73070, wire transfer checks numbered 2020-282 to 2020-284, and 2024-00586 to 2024-00723. Is that right?
It is. There was, for this past one, for the 2020.
Yeah.
It's an e-check, and so when it was put in, it was just put in as 2020 instead of 4. It doesn't matter, but
okay.
that's why there's 2 different ones.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. And ACH checks numbered 2425-00031 through 2425-00037 for a total of $1,709,103.67. All right, Ryan.
I just emailed you all to the.
Yep, got it.
All right, for the revenue, there's not a lot to report on the revenue expense report this month. For revenue, we did receive a state aid payment on 12/2 for like 1.9 million. Again, our revenue's on par for where it was in the past year as well. We are still paying Myron our final pay apps, so this has gone slower than expected, which hasn't been necessarily a bad thing because that just results in more interest for us. So that's why we're slightly ahead. We've received a little bit more revenue than we have last year. As far as our expenses, again, we're a little slightly behind. This month is just our 3-pay month for salaries and benefits for salaries, so you'll see that more in line for next month as well. And we're also still behind, again, I know I've said that before, the transportation amount, we're just thousands of month delayed on our bus payment, so.
Ryan, can you just explain, obviously, just for purposes of being in the referendum era, to, you know, some of the unique ways that we've tried to make do with the money that we already come in, such as the investment strategy that we've used, we started, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago, and how that's kind of paying off?
Yeah, so like as far as, so what we've ended up doing, because that took a little bit longer, I'd have to look at the exact numbers, but we put in something called a WIS for all that referendum money, and we got over $1 million in interest. And then we just paid that back into actually our expenses for that. So that was a nice benefit to that, because interest rates, while they've gone down a little bit now, at that time, they continued to increase.
So we're looking outside the box.
And so we're looking outside the box, obviously, to kind of save as much money as we can. Even, for example, all the money we get in like our state aid payment that we just received for 1.6 million. Obviously, we're not spending all of that at one time, so that goes into, it's called LGIP. But again, we're getting money off of interest instead of just keeping that in Community State Bank or receiving no interest on it. So, yep.
Right, okay.
And I think the other, I'm glad you just mentioned that, because, and I've been talking to families like last Thursday, helping them understand when they came in. You'll see like some of the handouts where you're seeing some that we give to the families when they stop by, the information is like, you can track like how we're not spending more. It's like we're literally trying to spend less and less and less. It's just that then there is 100% not enough to make those ends meet. So, and I think those have been really helpful. And I'm like, please watch the board meetings. All of this is like, we're not trying to hide anything.
Yep.
Like Nicole goes through things, every little thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm glad you asked
Well,
that.
another thing too, being on the board for as long as I've been and seeing the strategies that we've done as a school district to improve our rating too, right? Which helps us borrow on a, lower, penalty, and allows us to do some of the things we have just because we have been fiscally responsible for X amount of years. It gives us the flexibility to make some of these choices where we can ultimately impact the bottom line by being creative, and our credit rating allows us to be creative.
To your point, we haven't even needed a short-term borrow the last 2 years because we've been so responsible with that money.
Yep.
Which has been great. And then obviously, like when you brought the comparison, I mean, just look at something like our student transportation. We always had 16 routes every single year. Last year, it was budgeted at $612,000 for all of our transportation, which is a lot, obviously, but it jumps up to $668 this year. Again, we don't have more students. It's still the same route, same everything, but because of their costs, obviously go up, and with inflation, that's another 60 grand you have to budget, which is an FTE for a teacher. I mean,
Yeah, that's a teacher.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and in 2014, because I was asking Ryan a lot, I wanted a lot of 2014 data, and Dousman was $300,000 in 2014.
Yeah.
And it's nearing towards 700,000 now. I mean,
Probably when I first started was back then, at that point,
Right.
close to it,
but it's an indicator of, I think, things people don't think about, right? The building, the busing, the food, the supplies, the
Those are all
furniture.
things out of our control.
But then also the fact that we have, I know that you have literally purchased your own furniture. The PTO is constantly raising money. I mean, you're doing everything right. There's nothing to hide. We go through everything every single month. So it's a dire situation, unfortunately.
Yeah, someone asked like, hey, what did your interview look like when they asked about the referendum? And I said, that's funny, that never came up, because had I known that like this was a
gonna be a
thing,
cycle?
this might not have been something I would have signed up for. Like, this is wild here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I think honestly, it's just one of the saddest things we do to the students, to our community, our taxpayers. It's wild to me.
Is what it is. So, work with what we got, I guess, at this point.
Right.
So.
Can I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda items A through D as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
That's you. So despite all of the things
Yeah,
that we're
that was
doing, we're still
great.
investing in our new teachers. And so Barbara's gonna share what that looks like to ensure that we're getting the support. So our kids don't feel any of this, regardless of what's happening to the referendum. We're trying so hard to make sure kids still get exactly what they need through our teachers. And
Yes, so we've had like a mentor-mentee program here for a very long time. It's looked very different through the years. The last few years, like through COVID and whatnot, it's sort of kind of diminished. And I think it was like 2 years ago, I was talking to a bunch of our new ones, and it kind of sparked my interest. And they were just talking about the lack of connection and how big our building is and just everything that's out there that's so different than it used to be. So last year, started to do some of the mentor with them, and our staff has grown so much that it became a full-time position this year, which I absolutely love, and to aligning with everything that we're doing with all of our standards and mission statements. We have one for our mentee mentor program, which is a professional working alliance in which individuals work together over time to support the professional and personal growth, development, and success of our beginning educators. A mentorship involves sharing knowledge, experiences, and feedback. The goal is to help the mentee navigate challenges, develop skills, and achieve their own goals, all the while investing the time to developing high-quality, effective educators that we can retain in our district. So we've had, like I said, some turnover in the last 5-7 years, and I guess we want to see that stop. We're investing all this time in them, and we want to keep them after we've trained them more than 3 to 5 years. So we're hopeful that this program will help to do that. And then we have, why are our induction mentor programs important? Student achievement gaps present a challenge and are a top priority in Wisconsin and across the nation. School improvement efforts aimed at addressing achievement gaps must be addressed, support structures and environments for beginning teachers. So a little bit further in this, what I would talk about is kind of some of the programs that we're using to help them. But one of the things that I wanted to say is that there was a training that myself and 2 of the other mentors went to, the New Teacher Center. There also is through the state the PI 34, which is talking about the way that the mentor program should be developed right now. And the nice part is that we've been allowed to kind of take the pieces from both of those programs and implement them into our building the way that we see fit for our staff members. And so again, that's providing then beginning teachers with comprehensive induction programs that include quality mentoring support representing a viable strategy for districts to address these challenges. It allows us to have consistent and intensive work conversations between mentors and beginning teachers that dive deeply into aspects of effective teaching and equitable learning, and retaining effective teachers is equally as important as developing them. So then, high quality mentoring, what we're moving towards: sanctioned time for mentor-mentee interaction, multi-year mentoring. So we have a 3-year program right now. Mentoring should be intensive and ongoing for at least 2 to 3 years in order to impact teacher practices and student achievement. Mentors can give specific guidance, moving teaching practice forward. Mentors can focus their support on instructional growth and create concrete steps to help new teachers improve their practice. For example, let's look at your assessment data and talk about strategies that will help you address the concerns you had with reaching your struggling students. And then ongoing beginning teacher professional development. Our mentees benefit from a professional learning community that is focused on teacher development, problem solving, and mutual support, and guided by professional teaching standards and appropriate content area standards. So here is what our program includes. First of all, the teaching channel is something that we are using with our year 1 mentors, and we meet once a month on a Wednesday evening, and it gives us different modules for each month of the school year and then things to work on. So we focused on like classroom management, communication with your students, communication with parents, communication with other team members, staff members. Let me see what else I wrote down. The ins and out of your own building, lesson planning, curriculum, looking at data, and then just time for them to collaborate with each other. And that's something that we've never had before as far as using those, a resource like this to help them with the different difficulties that they might have during the year. Another thing that we are doing in our program is observations. So the mentees can go and observe anybody in the building. It doesn't just have to be within their own team or grade level. Also, the mentors go in and observe their mentees. And all of these are informal observations. They're not their evaluator, and that's expressed right away in the beginning of the year when they have their new staff week. And the same thing, the mentors had a training, like a 2-hour training that same week, and went through all of the things that they would be doing. And they were told, like, this is not a professional or, an supervisor evaluation. It's more of a go in, see what they're doing, what can you offer them with help. Then afterwards they meet and they have that time to talk about what did you feel went well, what would you want to improve on. The mentee can also ask their mentor or myself to come in before their evaluator comes to kind of see the lesson that maybe they want to do or how they're interacting or has anything changed since we first started, and get their opinion on that, kind of help them with some different practices as well. They are doing, year 1 has 4 observations from their mentor or myself throughout the year. The year 2 and 3 have 2 to 1, depending on where they're at. But the mentees themselves can observe anybody as many times as they want throughout the year. It's been really helpful to have like a lot of cross grade level observations. The middle school, we brought them down to the primary, and then vice versa. And both of them, just that realization. Because when you're doing your student teaching in your middle school or high school, like some of them had only been in high school and had no idea. So they took away like all these fun ideas of how to arrange your room or have the kids, sign up for something. Just something so simple that you don't think of until you actually see it. So it was nice. And it was nice to hear them say that it's good to see in our building because we are all together, that this is what's going on the other side of this, building, instead of just being stuck in your own hallway all the time. So it was really good. So each mentee has a one-on-one mentor, and that mentor is usually within their grade level and will help answer specific questions related to their curriculum or what their team does. Some mentors might have 2 if they're in a year 2 or 3 and they've come into our building. Then they might have 2 of them because it's just your basic get to know the building and the staff. And as you can see, we have a lot of fun things that we do with them. So we had the Christmas and we had all of them. I think we had almost 50 that were there for our celebration. And it was so nice to have them in-house, for one, because we didn't get that first week of school. We had them do a little scavenger hunt and trivia. And then, obviously, you feed them, so they're happy with that. And Craig, Mr. Blue, volunteered to be Santa. And then we had a little gift for each of them. So it's just so nice to have that community for them so that they have the time to feel connected in a different way, like they said, because we are so big. Okay, so then another thing is co-planning and co-teaching. This is where I get to step in a lot more and go into their PLCs or their common planning time and help the new ones go through their curriculum, talk about different strategies, instructional practices that they want to use or they want to try, or sometimes some classroom management, get over that hurdle before you can try different things in the classroom with the curriculum. Some of the class sizes are bigger, so it's helped them to have me in there when they want to try different projects or they want to try a different approach to teaching a lesson, just having extra eyes and hands. And then we talk through like some of the testing, how did it go, what would you change, looking ahead, different things like that, which has been For myself, it's been a learning experience as well because I've been in middle school, which I've never been in 29 years. I've only been in the primary area in this building, and I absolutely love what they are teaching and doing, and it's kind of fun to sit in the social studies and I feel like I'm relearning some things that maybe I didn't pay attention to when I was in high school or middle school. And then the collaboration and the connection. I feel like that's something that we're just constantly working on for them and trying to get them to feel connected in this building. Because like I said, we are big, we are separated. And not to just feel like this is someplace where you come, walk in, shut your door, teach, and leave. Because really, at the end of the day, what you come to work for a lot of times is your friends. Like, you're not always going to have that perfect year or perfect month or agree 100% with everything that's happening, but when you have those connections and you have those friends here, it keeps you coming back. And I feel that our administration too has been so open and so helpful. And if you look at the next slide, some of the comments too that they have said is just about all the support that they get and that their questions are answered right away and they don't feel like they're on an island. So you can just take a second and read those on your own, but I think it's been so great. So, any questions?
So like, what's next? Like, this is a year of like rebuilding and doing all this. Like, where do you see
I hope
next year
diving
going?
deeper into
And
it.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, because like we said, or I said, actually there was this one video that I showed at the beginning for them. It was called the New Teacher Card, and their mentor had left this when the mentee walked in, and you know, your desks are piled high and you don't know where to begin, and on the chair is this basket and it has all these teacher supplies that you wouldn't buy your first year, and then in it is what they call the teacher card, and it was like a free pass to use because you don't know everything your first year. And then in the video it said at the end of the year he looked at it closely and there was no expiration date on it, and he kept it for like 5 years and then passed it on. But the point at the end was that we're a new teacher like so many times in our career because our curriculum changes, our students change, like something is always changing. So I feel like that's, you know, where we're going to continue to grow with this program is because things are always changing. And then I hopefully, like our year 2 and 3 mentees are more into the curriculum with the standards, with the data and the testing and things like that, where our year 1s is really just about getting in here, getting going, your classroom management, first time through everything, whereas the 2nd and 3rd year, you can kind of, you know,
Right.
You should be diving a little bit deeper and getting all that information. So I hope then after year 3 that they're just so excited
They want to be a mentor.
here. Yeah. No, not for a few years.
Give them time.
We do have, I think we said it's, they should be in our building for 5
5
years and then,
Yeah.
then they could be. But I also hope that, you know, that everybody continues to take advantage of the observations and going to see their coworkers, because as I've gone into release, so that's another thing I should say, when a mentor goes in to observe a mentee, I go and teach in the mentor's room. So that eliminates all subs for any of these things to happen. Same with the mentee when they go into their mentors or anywhere to observe, then I'm teaching their class. But like I've had so many of the mentors say, like when they're going in and seeing things, and myself, like, gosh, I wish I would have done this 20 years ago, because there's so many little things that I see that I'm like, oh shoot, I would have tried that, or that is the cutest idea, or why didn't I present it that way? So it's been so eye-opening in that respect. So I would hope
you think
that-
you do the same activity,
Right.
but how it's executed is totally different.
Totally
right?
different, totally different. And I mean, not to bring it way down to like the early kiddos, but like how you have them sign up for lunch. or how you arrange things on their desk with their manipulatives. Like, so basic, but all of a sudden you see someone else and you're like, that's a way better idea. So much more efficient. And it would have been, you know, fabulous. So to be able to have like everybody taking those turns to do that and seeing their coworkers would be fabulous. So.
Well, and what an investment, not only in the development of your new teachers, but how many studies I've read that the longevity of your teachers in a district is directly tied to achievement.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're creating a space where new teachers can ask questions and you feel safe and they're learning, the more likely they're going to want to stay here long-term.
Right.
And you're developing young, old teachers, you know, consistently.
Yeah.
It's a great program.
Thanks. I'm excited for it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Okay.
All right, I will, do we have any public comments tonight? Yep. Yep, just a couple quick reminders. The board typically will not respond. Well, we can't respond unless there's something on the agenda. 3 minutes, no names or complaints about school personnel, and please state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Kurtz. I live at 6108 241st Avenue in Sydney. Good evening. On January 9th, 2025, the Supreme Court in the United States of America ruled that the Biden administration's perverse rewrite of Title IX is unlawful. This means that your policies concerning students are in violation of federal law, wherein they include the terms and phrases change of sex, gender identity, and transgender status. The current tenuous footing of the Bostock decision only protects these terms for your employment policies. Thus, I am here to demand that you immediately comply with federal ruling and remove change of sex, gender identity, and transgender status from all policies applied to your students, our children. This is in bullying, student anti-harassment, student hazing, and equal access for non-district sponsored student clubs and activities at the minimum. These were in there last night. I'm also demanding that you remove any question related to gender or sex from every survey given to students. You all are immediately to align yourselves with 2020 Title IX regulations and cease to discuss gender with our children, as there are only two, and you know what they are from legal documentation. There shall be no suggestion to our children from your faculty, administration, or school board that there are more than two genders. This leads directly to my final demand, which is that you remove all suggestive or sexually explicit literature from school grounds. The insidious insistence that children have the opportunity to be exposed to sexually explicit and gender-bending literature is appalling and should never be tolerated in a school or even a public library. These mature and adult-themed publications should never be in the vicinity of children, much less be handed out to them by educators. In summary, I'm here demanding you take immediate action to change your unlawful policies and align yourself with the decision of our Supreme Court. I was here over 2 years ago telling you what you were doing was wrong. Now I'm demanding you do what is right for our children and our community with the support of the United States Supreme Court. To me, it is unconscionable that you have undermined women's rights and restricted free speech for our children. Our children's rights are protected under the Constitution, and your actions in this regard have been traitorous. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will take a look at open enrollment.
I'm gonna start out by saying I wish the program that Barb was currently running was here when I started, because I had no idea how to make a bulletin board, and I still don't.
I also want one of those permission to fail cards that I can
Right? But it normalizes.
send me them all. I need lots of them.
It normalizes having adults in the room.
Yeah, right.
Like, what, when I started, if another adult walked into my room, it was like, what did I
Scary,
do wrong?
yeah.
And now it's normal, and the kids are normal, and they're asking whomever, and it's very community building. I see. All right, so open enrollment openings for this year, similar to last year, minus the fact that One additional grade level is going to be recommended to have fewer seats. Our current enrollment this year is 929 students, or was the day I made this. Excluding, this does not include our early childhood program, is that you'll hear about coming up. But our projected enrollment next year has gone down, just like everywhere else. There's fewer babies, there's fewer all of the things. So our projected enrollment would be 919. Currently, in each grade level, there are 4 sections with the exception of second grade, where there are 5 sections. Going through this, our pupil counts and things, we just kind of went with what would it look like at 4 at each grade level. That's not a decision that I make, it's a decision that you guys will ultimately make. But in aligning numbers, that one kind of made more sense to be at 4. Then you would see the projected number of students in each homeroom next year if there were 4 at each grade level, from 4K all the way on up to 8th grade. The biggest sections being 5th grade and then what will be 3rd grade next year. We do have your recommended desired class ranges, and as to not exceed those class ranges with open enrollment students. You'll see the available open enrollment recommended seats on the right there. 4K being 19, kindergarten 12, first grade 18, second grade 17, 0 at 3rd grade. They're already 1 above that desired class range. 10 at 4th grade, 0 at 5th grade, as they're already 1 above the desired range. 6th grades, 18 7th grades, and 7 in 8th grade.
Just ask one quick question about the projected enrollment. Like in the high school, it's easy,
Yeah.
right? Like you just call the middle school and you're like, how many 8th graders do you have? Like, and butts and seats, right? Like what information do we use to, other than patterns of declining enrollment nationwide, like local information do we use to come up with that projection?
Like from 4K to like the 4Kers?
Well, just like the whole like 919, right? Like we know we're graduating at a certain size class and like.
And like they're not exactly linear. Like 6th grade this year is 101. It's projected at 98 next year. What factors go into that projection?
Yeah, like when you're thinking of
Marquette.
like.
So Baird creates an
Yeah.
actual model for those different things. So they'll look at past years of how many kids that left from like grade 5th to 6th on average, and they'll account for that. Same on like class ranges from like 3rd to 4th, and he kind of just uses that model, and we get those from Baird then.
Sure.
For our
Do
projected.
they look at
enrollment.
like neighborhoods that are coming online and like, because I know that they're like a few years ago we had the conversation about, is it Duck Pond
Duck Pond.
on
Yeah.
K?
Oh, where the line
Like
is.
that was like
Definitely.
8 years ago. I felt like we had that conversation 5 years ago, and now finally looks
Yeah.
like there's gonna be houses like that could be, I don't know, 20 kids.
Right. So the answer to that is
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Like Ryan and I went to the Village of Paddock Lake, one of their meetings, and talked about like those developments. Like, so right now that one is almost finished, another one, there's a number, and the Village of Salem Lake, same thing. They're looking to develop, more apartments. Those studies though, and those numbers, we won't know much until people start. Now Alex Atia, board president of the Village of Paddock Lakes, he has, like, we've been having conversations, we see him tomorrow, trying to figure out, like, of those people, like, have a sense of who's coming in.
Right.
So right now, we are sticking with a more conservative number. We have spaces in the building, those classrooms where we could move them back in. But right now, I'm afraid if we open it,
Yeah, I'm thinking more state funding models than anything, but.
yeah.
Can we
Thank you.
talk about, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no,
You're
no,
done.
thank you, yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Can we talk about our massive 4th grade class that we have?
I wouldn't call it massive. I mean, it is the largest one, but that's the last bubble.
Right. And obviously, I'm very aware of our financial constraints and all of that, but I really worry about that number of kids in each classroom. I know that you have said junior high can be different because they're kind of moving around, but
Are you talking about class size?
yeah, and I don't know if,
Like next
Range
year's
of range?
fifth grade bunch.
right, so
Having them be 25.
28 a classroom. I mean, will you guys talk to the teachers this year about how that went with these, because right now they're about 28, right? Fourth grade this year is like 28.
Yeah,
class,
we,
roughly?
27, there's a couple that are at that 28.
Like, will we elicit feedback on how that went to prepare for fifth grade, even, like, I
So yes,
understand
we
the
are
constraints,
collecting
but-
feedback.
Okay.
We hear, we've been talking to them.
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing what you're asking us to do because we already are having trouble making ends meet with
Right.
Yeah, the answer is yes, we are collecting feedback. We are aware that it's a big group. We have like assigned an aide, like people in that space to help. I honestly don't know the easy answer to,
Sure. And I guess I'm not looking for an answer, I'm looking more for if there are things we can do, maybe we can be creative and figure something out. It's just, but I obviously understand the constraints. So
Yeah.
it's just something that,
Some of those creative things are actually happening right now.
yeah.
okay,
Barb goes in there and she takes like a group, is it daily? Daily, she takes a group of ELA from each class.
right,
And so she basically takes 20-ish kids,
Sure.
15 to 20 kids out of there. So then those other classes at
Okay.
that time go down to the,
awesome. Okay.
So-
Challenge, sorry.
No, I was going to say, the discussion a few minutes ago about new construction homes, apartments, townhomes in the area. Obviously, when you look at the class sizes, the current, the average class sizes, irrespective of the desired numbers, they're higher now than they have been. But then the other side of the coin is it would mean hiring more teachers, which would then, as far as the budget, which we've already been talking about. So that's always the balance. And the students who open and roll out versus those who come in. And, we always look at those numbers. So, I agree with what you're saying, but, there are so many different factors.
And it's tricky because there's this other piece of I was talking to the staff when we had to let them know just this is what could happen with the referendum. And everyone's head is, well, we want low class sizes. Unfortunately, if it came from one classroom, that would be great. If it's not one grade level, it's everywhere. So then what do I do with that teacher? Do I hire you for a year only to you're gone the following? Because I don't have them to leave. It's but to your, we're trying to make it feel smaller.
Or just like alleviate, just creative ways to help.
Yeah.
Because I get it, right? You're not going to have 5 classrooms with 20 kids in each class where a couple could open and roll out. I mean, I get it. I just want to make sure.
The math never is perfect. Like, it'd be awesome if it was like, oh, we could just, yeah.
But knowing that, Barb and her team are helping, I think it's just, those are big classes,
Yeah.
It was brought up too about new construction and how that is always kind of a gamble. I was here during the housing boom that didn't boom. I was here when projections were made of new housing going in. All these kids are going to come in, and there were no kids in the houses. They built the houses, but older couples moved in. So you can't really depend on new construction to bring students into the school. It's a shell game. It kind of depends on how it works, and it's not reliable.
Well, I think new construction paired with new industry or growing industry certainly creates family giving jobs, though, in that situation, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff going on around here right now that I think people are either relocating or taking, younger people are taking those positions for long-term careers that will eventually have families because they have stable employment. I think especially in this area is going to start changing.
Especially with Eli Lilly coming, I think you're gonna see a lot of
Microsoft,
Illinois
everything,
people
just
moving up,
everything's
cheaper
kind of,
taxes.
being in the industry I am in, seeing business and where it's formulating. I mean, southeastern Wisconsin is one of the fastest. Oddly enough, Green Bay is another one, but southeastern Wisconsin, Green Bay area are the two largest growing sectors in Wisconsin. So.
I know, like when we had those meetings with like in Salem Lakes and Pack Lake, when those people came in, there's not a lot of homes around here in that $200,000 to like $300,000 range.
Right.
And so there's some people who live in those, so they're really trying to get those homes maybe built at the $400,000 or $500,000 range. So maybe those people maybe look to upgrade, and now you've got those other families that could actually move in. And so that was kind of what was talked about in those meetings a little bit too. It was
I hope it's
interesting.
positive. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean,
History hasn't shown
Yeah.
it.
yeah. So.
All right, now we have, before you can approve, we have to talk about special ed open enrollment.
I can just stay back here, Fred.
I'll sit here.
So this is just a breakdown of our current caseloads and our projected caseloads for next year. You'll kind of see the numbers do go up. When you're looking at this though, I just want to be cognizant. You might be thinking, wow, first, second, third, kindergarten, first, second, third, those caseloads are really low compared to last year. And that's because our WINGS program is quote unquote housing a lot of those students. So we have 2 or 3 kindergartners in the WINGS program, as well as 2 to 3 second graders. And essentially what's happening is the case manager that supports in WINGS is working alongside our case manager that oversees first and second. So they're kind of sharing the students. They leave the classroom and receive more intensive intervention in the WINGS program, and then also have the time with their same age peers where they're being supported by the first and second grade case manager. So if you're wondering why those numbers are so low, that would be why. It's not that the numbers are actually low, it's that because we've kind of increased our continuum of care and our ways of supporting students, we're able to provide services in those smaller settings for our students who have those more intensive needs. So as far as open enrollment, we're going to continue to stay closed and implement our wait list. And that wait list will just be organized by program type, as well as based on when students obviously sign up for the wait list and assigned by priority in that sense.
So what's our total right now for just generalized IEP and 504 driven students in the school district currently?
Yeah, I think we're at like 112 for SPED, and then for 504s, we're upwards to maybe 20, 25.
So,
And then when we look at tier 3 interventions, we have 70 students in tier 3 interventions.
so percentage of students that, again, these students all take the same testing that students without disabilities would possibly have that report to the grade card situation too for student learning and everything like that, right? So you're saying we're still pretty 15, 16, 17% of the student base has some sort of need that it needs to additional address. Okay, so I mean that's substantial.
And I would say 99% of our students have accommodations for those assessments as well.
Sure.
So if they have deficits, whether that be with their ability to focus or whether that be their ability to read, we accommodate to help kind of close that gap,
Sure.
to help increase their achievement.
And since we have a larger footprint in the area based on geographical situations who attend this school, in discussions with other districts in our area, comparatively, would you say that their districts, somewhere between 10% in that range or a little bit under, a little less than, would you say that we're a higher caseload?
I would say that
school?
people come to, we have a lot of people that come to Salem because of our special ed programming.
Because of what we can do. So, yeah, which is also, and I'm bringing this all, it's an additional strain on the school as well for that sometimes is,
Yeah.
the resources we need to make sure that we're accommodating those IEPs, 504s and the,
Well, when you think about the intensive needs in those WINGS or
Sure.
SAIL program, those are like students that need intensive support. So you really have sometimes feels like 2 people.
Sure.
So, but the students need that. We don't want it. So to your point.
So when we have a student that moves into our district that has a severe need, what the ADA, American Disability Act says that we as a district have to foot the bill to make sure that they're getting equal care that a standard student would have, even if that's 7 to 8 times more per that student than an average student would have without those disabilities.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
And one of the things as a district that we've started to do is we've started to do more Medicaid billing, and that just helps us kind of re-accrue, the finances that we're putting into the students. And their needs.
Sure. Sure.
Any other questions?
Any questions at all about either one, about open enrollment numbers?
I move to approve the open enrollment openings as presented and discussed.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, just the last informational item. I know everyone's excited to always hear about the audit. So this is our 23-24 audit. We just got our results back from this past December on this. It's always a year behind. And so again, it's an annual requirement for school districts per Wisconsin statute 120.14. Again, it's an annual examination, obviously, of our financial accounts to ensure their accuracy. Lucida, who's done it, again, the last couple of years conducted our audit. So there's 3 distinct parts. We have our preliminary audit, which is June 17th. We have our main financial audit, which is August 5th through the 8th. And then we have our single audit, or basically various follow-ups for information requests after that initial August 5th through 8th section that goes usually from September all the way to November. And then so similar to previous years, the auditors found no significant material weaknesses. However, they noted 3 financial statement findings. The 3 findings were financial statement preparation, lack of segregation of duties, excess of expenditures over budgeted amounts. So those first 2, we are going to continue to get every single year, and I know some of you already know that. Part of that is because, number one, for the financial statement of preparation, we really need to house an accountant on site, and obviously we're not paying for that, so we're going to continue to get that one. And then the lack of segregation of duties, again, the business office is relatively small, but as a board, everyone plays an important role with that. We do have different things in place to obviously account for that limitation. So obviously, I meet with Nicole Haas once a month, where we review the treasurer's report, accounts payable by check and vendor. Then you obviously, as a board, approve all of our checks from monthly board meetings, and obviously all of our receipts that go through. And then Dr. King reviews and approves all payroll timesheets, invoices, and bank recs. So we do have things in place for that. But again, because of the size of our business office, we're going to always get those first 2. The third one, excess of expenditures over budget amounts. We've had this one in the past. The reason this one popped up again is we did our July budget amendments, if you recall, in July. However, we still received some more invoices for 23-24 in August, and actually even into September. Obviously, our audit was August 5th through the 8th. So what I would have had to have done, which I did not do, is we'd have to continue to do more amendments like in August, September, October. So you'd have to approve amendments every month, and that would be up to you if that's something you'd like to do, but that's why we got that one as well. Pupil transportation was a 22-23 finding, or from last year's report. We counted a couple kids twice. That was not, the reason it's crossed out was that was not an issue for this year's audit. So, but if anyone obviously wants to see the audit report, you can come to the district office and feel free to grab a copy of it.
Sweet.
I don't have to do any approving on that. So.
All right. No committee reports. We have Finance and Personnel Committee, February 19th at 4 p.m. here, and our next board meeting will be February 25th at 6 p.m., same spot.
If I can make one announcement, on Saturday morning, February 22nd, in this room right here, the LGI, WGTD Public Radio and the 91.1 Players will be presenting cartoon shows on the radio. It'll be a live broadcast, and it'll be featuring about 13 or 14 actors on 5 microphones. And it's going to be Looney Tunes, and it's going to be really in honor of Mel Blanc, who was the voice of Bugs Bunny. And just as a side note, my oldest uncle, who's no longer living, was also living in Portland, Oregon, where Mel Blanc lived. And it was my Uncle Leo, who was married to my Aunt Ethel, who were living in Beverly Hills at the time, convinced Mel Blanc to move from Portland, Oregon to Hollywood to get into showbiz. Anyway, it's really a neat show. It's being written by primarily by Anne Marie Schmidt, who's also a local area veterinarian. And so it's just going to be a great show. And the 91.1 Players WGTD, over the last 19 years, we have won 32 state and national awards. And in fact, one of the shows we did here last year also won an award. So anyway, wanted to announce that, and it'll be announced here at school. And I'll record a promo that you can air if you wish.
Thank you, Steve.
And, by the way, everyone volunteers their time for this, just so you know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:05. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm going to have trouble